Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Elixir Foundation series. In this episode right here, we're going to be tracking network calls. So, I showed you guys the page load event fired in the previous episode, and the previous episode before that, we covered agents. So in this episode right here, we're going to bring that together and actually track network calls that our page is actually making. You may be wondering why, so I'm going to switch to a different event. So let's take a look at the event we're going to be covering over here. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using two main events from the Chrome DevTool protocol. So basically one of that is network response received. So this is for, once like our page makes a network call, comes back and the network has been received. But before that, network request will be sent. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to listen for the event where a network call is being made. And then we're going to output all the network calls URL. And then basically, then we'll see what's actually going on. So we'll start with the network request will be sent. So I'm not going to use this page load event fired anymore. So you may be wondering, why can't we just listen to one event when the page is done? So basically, the page load event fired only fires once the page loads, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all the subsequent network calls are done. It's only the first initial load, which means if you're doing traditional server-side rendering where your Rails app or Elixir app is rendering out the actual HTML and not making network calls, no AJAX calls, this could work. But then if you're doing that, then you probably don't even need this solution in the first place. But if your page is actually making AJAX calls or using Fetch, the browser native Fetch API, it's making these network calls after the page has loaded. So this event pretty much becomes irrelevant for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to subscribe to a new event. And basically, we're going to listen to that network event instead. So rpc.network.enable. So we need to enable the network RPC so that we can listen to the network event. So here I'm going to do network requests will be sent like that. And self. So basically now when the event comes in, we are going to get that data. So what we're going to do is, we are going to just output all of the URL. So to get the URL, it's very simple. So all we need to do is something like this. So URL equals data, and then params, and then we're going to do request and URL. So basically, if you're wondering why params request URL, so in the previous episode we saw params contains the data that gets sent back. So in here, if you look over here, we have this one request, which is the request data, and in here we can get to the URL. So that's exactly why we are listening for the event, and then we're getting params request URL. So what we can do now is we can actually start an agent that will track all of the requests. So let's go ahead and create an agent here. So I'm going to do OK, requests, and equals agent.start link, and then fn and end. All right. So basically what this is we're just going to get an empty list. And then basically what we're going to do is we are going to actually once we receive this request, we're going to actually use agent.update. And then we're going to do fn state. So the state is not going to be a list. So we can add items to this list. So state ++ URL. So let's do a little bit of a primer. So I'm going to close this app over here. I'm going to do IEX. So let's say I have a list over here, and I do a list ++ something. We're going to get a list with something. So now if I do list, okay, so it's got to be list equals list ++ something. So now list has something in it. So if I do list equals list ++ another we're going to get 2 items. So essentially what this is going to do is it's going to add this URL to the existing list, and then basically it's going to track, the agent is going to track all of the URLs that are being started, all the URLs that are being made in terms of network call. So then now what we can actually do is we can also later on output the URL. So what we can do is something like this. So I can even, so I don't need logger anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a method over here, call network URLs. And then I'm going to pass in the PID like that. And then here I'm going to do gen server dot handle dot call PID module network URLs. So basically, this is just so that once we, everything's going on, we can actually call into this gen server to see all of the URLs that are being made, all the URL that are being used to make that network call. So network URLs looks good. So now we need to do a handle call. Handle call. So now you can see everything coming together. We have handle call, we have handle info, we have agent. Things are starting to get really complicated here, but it's going to be just fine. So network URLs, and then we're going to do a from state, and then here we're going to do a reply. So actually here we need to do a pass in a request so that we can access the agent.get and then state.request, and then we can do fn state end. All right, so you may be wondering, why don't I just track the state of network calls inside of the gen server itself? Well, the thing is, I like to keep things isolated. I want to have this agent track the state it can be running on a separate thread. So this is where the whole, a concurrence and parallel, beauty of Elixir comes in. Is if I need another thread to be tracking something and another thread to be doing something else, I can just create a new process. And in this case, agent creates that new process. So if I do this, agent should reply with the actual result. So now state. So this is going to return the state back to the gen server, and we're going to get the result back from our agent over here to show kind of like all of the URLs in terms of network calls that are being made. And then, yeah, everything should be good. So just a bit of a recap. We're going to make a request to get a page, and then we're going to track all the network calls that page is making. We're going to store it in the gen server. We're going to store it in the agent, and then we're going to get that result back out by calling this function here called network URLs. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be it. My bad. We don't need that. We don't need that one there. All right, so that should be good. We should be doing okay. So let's go ahead and close this. I'm going to do IEX mix. I'm going to enlarge this just a tad. And basically, so we need to pass in the PID. So we're going to do state.request. All right, so that should fix everything. So let's try and actually run this rendering engine. So I'm going to do OK, PID, and then I'm going to do bountiful.render.engine.start link, HTTP. All right, so let's see what happens. So now what I can actually do is bountiful.render.engine.network URLs, and then I'm going to pass in the PID. Oh, there's a typo. So bottiful. So you can see that over here. So we just made a call, and basically it returned us a list of all the network calls. So you can see there's quite a bit over here. There's the artillectual. It made a page request to the main page, which is, returns the HTML. And then basically we have the style sheet, JavaScript with, this simple analytics. So I'm using the simple analytics, shout out to Adrian. So yeah, anyway, so it's doing all these network calls, and you can see, and it's, even making a post call to track, for example, analytics, if I'm tracking how many page views I have or whatever. So it's basically returning all the URL, all the network calls. So essentially out of this, the question is, when the page is being rendered, do we care about simpleanalytics.io? Not really in this context, like if in terms of the page rendering, because we don't care about the actual analytics data. We just want to render the actual page. So we want like the JavaScript, the style sheet is all relevant. The assets, the logo and all that, that's all relevant because, to be able to display the logo and all that, we need to be able to retrieve it through the network call. So basically what we can conclude here is that we want to selectively monitor our network calls. We don't want to monitor every one of the network calls. We want to just monitor the network calls that match with the URL that we're trying to get over here. So for example, anything that starts or contains https artillectual.com, we want to monitor. We want to filter out all the rest. So that's going to conclude it for this episode. So in the next episode, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be tracking I'm going to be writing a filter to basically just filter out all the, just irrelevant network calls and just track only the ones that are relevant. And then basically we're going to check to see, if those network calls are done. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode. This is a members exclusive episode, so check out our forum as well. If you haven't already noticed, we have a forum on our site, and you can ask all kinds of questions. If you're confused about this episode in particular, you can go to the actual episode, and then basically you can click on select. For example, if you have a question about Handlecast, Gen server, and I said something in the video that may have confused you, you can actually create a new conversation inside of the context of that video, and I'll be able to see, oh, this video has a question, and I can answer it for you guys. So this is a great way to get the most out of your membership. I'm happy to help you learn more, and if you have any questions, I'm going to be right there monitoring the forums to make sure that you get the answer as fast as you possibly can. And if you're working in a company or whatever it may be, you may be building your own personal project or whatever. Feel free to ask us any questions, even if it's off topic. So we do have you can click here to create a new question, and it doesn't have to be in a context of anything that we cover here. It can be just on its own. And maybe I'll even create a video as a reply to answer your question. So yeah, with that, I want to wrap up this episode. Thank you for becoming a member. I hope you guys are enjoying your membership. And I will see you guys and girls in the next episode.